From KATU News in Portland, these two Portland police officers tracked down most prolific graffiti offenders.
Unless you never leave your home, you can't miss it. Graffiti covering freeway walls and so much more.
And, I do like to discuss graffiti simply because I understand a little bit about the subculture, mostly in San Francisco and New York, but obviously Portland and Seattle have huge graffiti scenes, and as corny or as cliche as it sounds, that is the sign, the number one indicator of a city in decline.
Seeing the extent of the problem would lead most people to believe it's being ignored by the city. Not true.
Are you making a dent, do you feel?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Meet Portland police officers Nathan Kirby-Glatkowski and Amelia Floor.
A spot that used to be getting cleaned all the time isn't.
And for the record, we do understand that clearly graffiti is not the worst crime, but if you want to throw it back to, Rudy Giuliani, it's broken windows policing. If they can get away with this, they're just going to keep going, up and up and up. Shoplifting, robbery. This is the beginning of it, right? I mean, this is the gateway, as it were.
Anymore, it's suddenly an explosion of graffiti that we can all notice.
On this day, they're on graffiti duty, hoping to track down those responsible for littering our city with paint.
Yeah, he's fighting. Can we get another unit or two, please?
And most people know that the graffiti contingent largely is at least stealing the paint they're using. It takes a lot of paint, hundreds, thousands of dollars worth of, aerosol paint to get this stuff done. So that is a precursor crime to the next crime they're going to do. And then, the cycle continues from there.
But that's not all they do.
Great.
Jackson's going to cut through, right? Oh, they're over there.
He said he's going to continue to fight.
Okay. All right.
He's in some type of psychosis, just so you guys know.
All right.
Before we even head out on the graffiti trail, they're called to assist on a man assaulting someone near Portland State University. It's typical for a police bureau that's short-staffed.
No, we're going to try to just
So before they even get to the graffiti, there's another, well, of course there's another crime. What am I talking about?
deadlift this guy. All right, I got him. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Soon we're back on the road.
Obviously, we're still in uniform. We're listening to the radio, and we are also responding and augmenting and assisting patrol, as you saw this morning. So that can sometimes swallow an entire day. Some of these folks are doing the graffiti it could be any given time, frankly. Most of it is at night. Most of it is early in the morning when it's dark and there are less people out. Certainly, some of these folks are very emboldened. Taggers want to be up.
Kirby-Glatkowski and Floor are part of the neighborhood response team. Each precinct has one, kind of the Swiss Army knife for the police bureau. Floor was hired right out of college, while Kirby-Glatkowski worked in nuclear weapons disarmament prior to joining the police force. They're determined to make a dent, especially after the Bureau's graffiti task force was cut in 2015.
I think as that team went away, less and less of a concerted approach on graffiti existed. And so patrol, of course, they still stopped graffiti guys in the act. They still made arrests. But actually,
not in California, not in Oakland, certainly not in LA. We see the building that, there's a giant complex that was abandoned in 2019 and just absolutely covered in graffiti from top to bottom, right? A lot of space. And I don't know what the police force is looking like in Portland, but in the Bay Area, they're quite literally saying, yeah, we're just not going to be able to get to that. Unless you basically point a gun at someone's face, we're not coming out at all.
Actually going out there and seeking the worst offenders wasn't really happening.
Until now. The pandemic and civil unrest saw a significant uptick in the amount of graffiti on the streets.
Frankly, we had an explosion of graffiti in the city.
These two spend hours upon hours tracking down the most prolific graffiti offenders and building cases on them.
But we do have GeoMetro there and GeoMetro there, which should be going to grand jury next week.
Then they're turned over to the district attorney for prosecution.
It's not just, oh, you got caught doing one act, a misdemeanor, here's your charge. That's been shown again and again and again to not really deter graffiti vandals. They appear to just kind of keep going if that happens. They get handed a ticket. And so our way was...
Yes, and on top of that, they get these little, I could say from experience, they get these little community service, notice to appear type of things, which basically just turns into a networking event for more graffiti writers.
How do we find the most impactful folks, the people that are doing hundreds of these tags a year, and then make them realize that, like, you need to stop. This is serious, and there's a consequence. Exactly.
Yeah, what you should do instead is just shoot junk under a bridge, and then we'll leave you alone.
And they are making progress. In the last couple of years, they've busted 7 or 8 big cases and many more small ones. When you see more graffiti, it's not necessarily because the vandals are more active. Many times it's because of a gap in funding for ODOT and PBOT. ODOT handles the freeways, PBOT the city.
Once you start looking for graffiti, before I started this part of my job with Kirby, I would notice it, but it wasn't something that I was particularly on the lookout for. Now that it is part of my job and something that I do find interesting at work, I see it absolutely everywhere. You can't unsee it once you know what you're looking for.
But does the constant painting and repainting over graffiti really make a difference? These two say yes, that if you paint over it every 3 months, not so much, because the taggers want to be visible.
If a wall gets cleaned every day, then you're way less likely to have a tagger come back there, because why put all that effort into that spot when they could go somewhere else and be up for a longer period of time?
So what is it about graffiti that bothers us so much? Kirby Gladkowski says others involved in criminal activity are emboldened by seeing all the graffiti.
And when you have cities like this that are just covered in graffiti, like I said, it's obviously the gateway to larger, more offensive crimes, but it lets you know exactly who's in charge. The political regime has little to no control over this, and they are going to, even if they did, they're going to let these criminals run wild. But when they're putting their names on everything, they're climbing buildings, they're letting you know, this is my city, this is my town, I'm in charge here.
An appearance of a lack of accountability. And there's this.
It really bothers a lot of our citizens that graffiti is up. It makes them feel more scared that there's more crime, and seeing that every day has a big impact on people. So helping out on mitigating that feels good.
These two say that between 50 and 100 people are doing most of the graffiti, the high-frequency taggers, with a few hundred more doing the rest. Some come from out of town just to tag here in Portland.
They hook up with local taggers, they get shown the spots, they go out, they do graffiti.
Yep, and there used to be 12-ounce profit. RIP to that forum, which I guess was kind of it was 12-ounce profit. There was Flickr, and that sort of evolved into Instagram, but a little bit of a different story. And it's also crazy how some people now, a lot of these guys, they'll put like fan account or in no way affiliated, which I guess is kind of a deterrent. But these people, back in the day, when you would go on 12-ounce profit, you may post a bunch of pictures, some of your own stuff, some of your buddies, some random graffiti, but it was a little bit more up in the air. Now they're literally just putting their name on their Instagram account and saying, well, that's not me, it's a fan account. Okay.
And so I think a significant portion of the graffiti in our city is not even done by local residents. It's done by out-of-towners.
They point to the massive effort by a number of partnerships in the city to battle the graffiti problem, including business owners.
And this is another sort of thing to notice, is that when you see the murals, whether it's legal graffiti or these weirdo propaganda communist murals, when you start to see those, you know you're in bad shape.
Business associations and volunteers. They know it'll take more than a brushstroke or two to clean things up. But keep this in mind. If graffiti is your thing, officers Amelia Floor and Nathan Kirby Gladkowski are likely headed your way.
If you are extremely impactful and very prominent and you are out most nights doing this graffiti, you're going to be on our list, and we're going to come and hold you accountable for that.
Steve Dunn, K2 News.
Yeah, well, they probably should have put a stop to that many years ago. Of course, they didn't, and it has ballooned into a litany, a laundry list of other crimes. And unfortunately, the title of this video is Portland Police Track Down the Most Prolific Graffiti Offenders, which, of course, they did not name, and we don't know who those people actually are.